think we're going to talk about foreclosures today. The Dayton Daily News had an editorial about foreclosures, that we need to stem the housing crisis, stop the foreclosures.
Who cares what the Dayton Daily News says?
Well, they are the arbiter of people's opinions a lot of times.
Okay, let's talk about foreclosures, regardless of what they say.
Well, I mean, when they say something, sometimes just like when I'm dealing with people out in the public, sometimes people, when they repeat stuff back to me, I feel like I got the Dayton Daily News being repeated back to me, or God forbid Fox News. But long story short is they talk about foreclosures today, and that we need to do something about foreclosures. Well, what we needed to do about foreclosures was to not get us into the problem.
Now, I have a contrary opinion. People got to live somewhere.
Well, they're going to live. Look, they aren't going to tear those houses down. They're going to have to. They're going to have to take the haircut. In other words, default.
Now, here's the problem. Foreclosures don't solve the problem, because the moment the house forecloses on, the bank doesn't really care anymore. They don't take care of the house. They don't make sure, at least in the inner city. Now, maybe it's different in Kettering or Oakwood or Centerville or, Huber Heights. But what we're having is the bank kicks the people out who are taking care of the house. Then, next thing you know, the copper's gone. That means all the plumbing and the electrical wiring. The heating and air conditioning is gone. The gutters are gone.
It doesn't
matter. The loom siding. And next thing you know, the house is worthless.
Well, it's in Dayton. This house was going to be worthless anyway.
And the bank,
at least it got recycled.
And the bank is not taking any responsibility at all for the maintenance or maintenance.
The bank already got bailed out for the problem, and
the bank
has moral hazard. What also has moral hazard was that people took out loans, and loans were offered to people, and they used the things like ATM. And now the Dayton Daily News wants to sit around and say, "Oh, let's forgive them."
Okay,
how is that teaching us?
Let's also look. It's not. Some people are on conventional loans,
and
where they lost their jobs, Greg.
They lost their jobs. That's what happens.
And they lost their jobs,
and we're supposed to bail out for that?
No.
I mean, the Dayton Daily. Well, look, not the Dayton Daily, but society in general. We're moving those jobs off overseas. Wall Street was doing it, and we're sitting around and
we're talking about symptoms of. Treating the symptoms, not treating the disease.
The disease was there a long time ago. You'd seen the housing bubble coming. A lot of people saw it, and after the fact, it's always after the fact with the paper. Always after the fact.
But hold on.
Never.
The quote bubble didn't happen nearly as bad in Dayton, Ohio, as it did in L.A., San Francisco, New York, where values skyrocketed.
Well, it's because people were moving there and businesses were moving there.
It's because we were playing paper games with money there.
Well, we were playing paper games with money here, but we were sprawling out at the same time. I mean, we were losing population, but still building houses. Look, that's just ludicrous.
Oh yeah,
absolutely,
it's crazy.
Poor public policy in the first place.
Yeah.
But when all you elect,
wait a second.
When all you elect in the city commission,
the free market is supposed to take care of it all.
It is taking care of it. It is taking care of it.
Okay.
But now when the free market wants to work, out the door, people. You lose the house goes from $200,000 to $100,000. You're on the street for a while, you get a job, you're paying less rent. Because the prices have devalued, and now more people can buy homes. They
can't get a loan.
Well, they lost their job, huh?
They lost their job, and sometimes they've got 2 or 3 other jobs. But the problem is the bank then went and jacked up interest rates on everything else.
Well, the bank's getting their money back.
Look at the banks with their reckless credit card.
Yes, we elected Obama. What did he do for change?
Well, wait a second. It's great. In February, you're going to start being able to actually pay down those higher interest advances or any of those other things first, which you should have been able to do no matter what. But how are they going to penalize us? Oh, every single credit card jumped 4 or 5%. This is where they're screwing the small guy, and the big guy doesn't care because he pays off his credit.
My contention is somebody should have said something before.
You can't keep screwing the little guy and expect it all to keep working. You need the cogs to make the machine. The machine is going to break down if we don't take care of the cogs. I think that's what they're saying in the foreclosure crisis. You just need to be a little more. The banks need to be more flexible, because when they kick the people out of the house, it doesn't solve the problem.
Yes, it does.
No, you restructure the loan. You restructure the debt.
Restructure the loan. If they haven't got a job,
we restructured the debt for the Wall Street people.
But we don't care. Wall Street cares. DC and Wall Street are the same. What I'm talking about is we need to forget what anybody's saying in DC or Columbus or anything. We need to figure out what works for this community.
What works for this community is stopping the banks from kicking people out of the houses.
Stopping sprawl.
And stopping sprawl and all the rest of it. But
we're using public money to exacerbate the problem.
I don't think we should be making the banks whole. I just think the banks, nobody gains when you kick the people out of the home.
When nobody forecloses, housing prices will dive.
Housing prices have dove.
Oh, they need to dive. Figure it out. If you're going from a GM job that was paid X an hour to a Walmart job, your housing price is definitely going to have to go down to meet that. There's no other way to do it.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is macroeconomics and how the whole thing is just we can either restructure everything at a different rate. It's like massive inflation when all of a sudden $100,000 is only worth $1,000.
What are the consequences?
The decimal points don't make a difference. The decimal points don't make a difference.
I agree. Well, we've talked enough. Have a good day.
All right.
Crazy.